everybody. Just a gentle
Morning.
reminder to everyone. We'll probably have to mute you once we formally start. Again, the event's going to be recorded for posterity for both PAASE and STRIDE. And we will begin the program shortly. And again, thank you very much for coming to the Memorandum of Understanding signing ceremony between STRIDE, USAID STRIDE, and the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering. And today, I think we will be joined by both our officers and board from PAASE, as well as the team of USAID, as well as the STRIDE team. So without much fanfare, I'd like to welcome our president, Gisela Concepcion, to her opening remarks to welcome everyone as well. Giselle?
Thank you, Al. Greetings, everyone, especially to Dr. Thomas LeBlanc, Director of USAID's Office of Education, to the Deputy Chief of Society of STRIDE, Dr. Richard Abendan, and his STRIDE team, members of the PAASE, led by some directors of the board, Dr. Ino Lansigan and Dr. Aiza Yu, to our esteemed colleagues and friends in academia, and a special mention of our true and loyal friend of the PAASE, Executive Director Tito Aliga of the UP Diliman Engineering Research Foundation and Development Foundation. This is indeed a happy occasion. We gather here today to formalize the linkage of STRIDE and PAASE, the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering, which have been natural partners for many years. And this began when STRIDE Philippines was initiated many, many years ago with David Hall as the chief of party, Larry Lawrence Ilag as deputy chief of party, and the team today led by Dr. Richard Abendan, already working very hard with PAASE. So let me just thank STRIDE for helping Philippine universities, led by the University of the Philippines, but also equally STRIDE helping many other state universities and colleges and private higher education institutions. We say that our greatest resource for socioeconomic development in our country would be our human capital. Academics who believe in Confucius think that the formula for developing human capital is knowledge plus skills, knowledge and training, or doing what you know with your hands. And that is what we would like to achieve together with STRIDE, formalized by this MOU today. In the past, STRIDE has provided support for us in many different ways. So all of us recall the grants that STRIDE provided to our young scientists. And these grants have been very productive. Some of you may know that there are some products that are already in commercialization. We also had this training stints of our young researchers. So master's students, master's graduates. Then we had a white paper from STRIDE on the Philippine STI ecosystem, identifying the strengths and the weaknesses and the areas where we would have to fight for greater support and improvement. In particular, we'd like to point out STRIDE's effort to try to solve the S&T procurement problem in our country. And this has now, again, been taken up by STRIDE as a major challenge with the S&T procurement survey that it came up with and that we are promoting participation in through the National Research Council of the Philippines and STRIDE. There are many, many other instances where STRIDE helped us, including the CHED Carry program, where you provided us funds to support the visits of many consultants of our projects. Now, I think it's a very natural thing for us to formalize this relationship because all of us are like-minded, all of us love what we do, and we are enthusiastic about bringing more knowledge and innovation into the country, knowing that this would be the major driver of socio-economic growth and progress in our country. So, as an ending, I would like to share with you, okay, I would like to share with you a paper that PAASE recently publicized. If I may request the stop sharing of the screen, I would like to share my screen. It is titled S&T Human Capital Development and is prepared by CP David and myself with contributions from other PAASE stalwarts, including our PAASE honorary members, former Secretary Bernie Pernia, Sarah Lynn Daway Ducanis, former UP President Alfredo Pascual, and national scientist and former Ateneo President Father Benvenido Nebres. And in this paper, we identify the problems based on evidence or data that we gathered on the S&T human capital. And we recognize that this requires a lifetime development from the primary to the secondary to the tertiary postgraduate levels. But as PAASE, which is an organization of about 380 PhD level scientists and engineers based in the Philippines, in the United States, and elsewhere in the world, we think that we can make an impact starting at the secondary junior level. And so here we identify 3 strategic initiatives. And I would think that the second and third initiatives are where we can work together closely with STRIDE. So we aim to increase PhD faculty in SUCs and other HEIs to increase research productivity. And that goes without saying that they need to be trained under the proposed START program of the MOU. Further, in this paper, we cite in particular the lack of postdoctoral fellows that was a main finding, a major finding of the STRIDE paper, which we cite in this paper of the PAASE. The third strategic initiative relates to strengthening the innovation environment for increased industry collaboration and tech startup promotion. And this has been the goal of STRIDE all these years. So in this strategic initiative, I think STRIDE is a very, very important partner for all of us. So among the 3 strategies, we've actually identified 10 implementable actions which we intend to pursue. And we are counting on STRIDE as a major partner for implementing these actions. So at this point, I'd like to thank again the RTI, Research Triangle Institute, that is implementing STRIDE in the Philippines under the USAID. And I would like to thank especially our guest speaker today, RTI Innovation Advisor, Mr. Kang Chiang, for agreeing to give a special lecture on how we can better implement our plans, our implementable actions in PAASE. Thank you very much all for your attendance and for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. That was a new challenge presented by Giselle about the paper that they just completed in doing another round of assessment where we are in this pandemic. Uh, Now we'll want to welcome Dr. Thomas LeBlanc, the Office of Education Director for USAID, to give his opening or welcome remarks to our team in PAASE as well as in STRIDE. Tom, can you share your... Good morning.
Good morning. I hope you can see me. All right, I'll start out with the acknowledgements. Dr. Gisela Concepcion, President of the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering, distinguished members of the PAASE based both here in the Philippines and in the United States, my friends from the STRIDE team led by Dr. Richard Abendan, friends, ladies and gentlemen, magandang umaga. It's with great pleasure that I join you today in this wonderful occasion to formalize the partnership between USAID's STRIDE program and PAASE. First, I would like to congratulate PAASE, ably led by Dr. Gisela Concepcion, for your continuing success in actively promoting collaboration among US and Philippine scientific and engineering communities through your members. And I would like to also add that I appreciated that article that you just highlighted. And I think that STRIDE is doing a lot to support PAASE in trying to achieve the objectives that you laid out in that paper. In addition, for the past 4 decades, you, PAASE, have contributed significantly to transforming the scientific and innovation landscape of the Philippines and the United States, and you have strengthened the people-to-people bonds of both countries. Since your founding, PAASE has helped shape the Philippine innovation ecosystem. Today, we are seeing historic achievements in innovation on the world stage for the Philippines. It's the expertise of PAASE and its members who have also helped science-based initiatives and policies that respond to the impacts of COVID-19 at the national government level and in local communities. PAASE has always been a great partner of USAID. Since we launched STRIDE in 2013, PAASE members and officials have sat on the STRIDE Advisory Board. They have shaped the strategies that have strengthened the science, technology, and innovation capacity of Philippine higher education institutions and have increased collaboration between government, industry, and academia for a more innovation-led economic growth. STRIDE has also tapped into PAASE network for various initiatives, such as collaborative research between Philippine and US universities, visiting US professors, research training, and many other things. Today's event formalizes what has been a long-standing and successful partnership. This memorandum of understanding highlights the synergy between the missions of both organizations. In the midst of all of our successes and challenges, the partnership between PAASE and STRIDE will continue to play a vital role in sustaining the Philippines' journey to self-reliance. More work is ahead for all of us as we all continue to push forward with transforming the Philippines' innovation ecosystem to be able to respond more effectively to the evolving needs created by the COVID-19 pandemic and prepare the country for the many challenges ahead. In this light, I would like to announce that USAID has awarded an extension to the STRIDE program for 1 more year until July 2022 with an additional $1.5 million. This takes USAID's total investment in STRIDE to close to 2 billion Philippine pesos over 9 years. As a friend, partner, and ally, the United States remains committed to working with you, the champions of innovation. And I look forward to more collaborations between USAID, STRIDE, and PAASE. Once again, congratulations. Maraming salamat at mabuhay.
Maraming salamat din, Dr. Tom Leblanc, for the pat in the back as well as the promise of commitment to move forward together. Thank you very much. And I'm sure both coming from the PAASE family, being a past president in 2017, and from the STRIDE family, we are very happy to have you as a major supporter for us in the Philippine innovation S&T ecosystem. Thank you very much. Now, I think to get to the heart of the details of the collaboration, I'd like to invite the Chief of Party of STRIDE, who is my co-worker for the last 7 years, Dr. Richard Abendan, to present most of our initiatives together, both before and moving forward. Richard?
Thanks, Al. Yes, it's been 7 years, probably, and we're gonna do a lot more. So I'm glad Tom announced the year extension, because I think we definitely can plan for more activities with PAASE going forward. We have a longer runway to really create impactful programs together. Let me just sort of put my screen on full share. First, I want to acknowledge our partners at PAASE, headed by Dr. Giselle, the Isa, the board who's present here, and also, I guess, all the members. We actually plan to, we've recorded this message because this event, because you're gonna see me have a lot of items in my slides here of a call to action. So we can probably share this with the members as we go along, maybe parts of this video about what we can do to collaborate together. And so I think I just want to greet all the PAASE members who are watching, will be watching this. Special mention again, I keep mentioning Lisa, because Lisa Verata, who's I think on this call, was the one who pointed me to join STRIDE 7-8 years ago. So I always credit Lisa for that. And again, our partners, our funders from USAID, Dr. Tom and Mir. Tom and Giselle talked about the natural and the deep ties between STRIDE and PAASE. And in a way, this MOU is almost just a formality, because our partnership's been there for many years. And sort of to just give a quick flashback, and I think Giselle already started this, but I have pictures. There's a picture of, I think at the first year of STRIDE, 2014, 2015. You might notice there on the second to the right, that's Dr. Manny Uy. He was one of the founding staff on STRIDE. He flew here, he lived here for a couple of years. He's a very active senior member of PAASE. So just want to show you that the link is there, even from us, from a staffing perspective. This is actually to celebrate a visit of four of our first batch of grantees in R&D in STRIDE in 2015 or 2016, as I said. You'll notice, I think 3 of them are PAASE members, or at least 2. I see Dr. Menchi, Dr. Shirley Agrupis, then a faculty, but now the president of MMSU. And Dr. Joyce Ibana from biology, I believe, and Brian Pajarito formerly from engineering of UP. And Giselle mentioned Dave Hall, the former COP. He's there in the back. You can see him there. So I guess I'll show us flashback. Also, can't avoid but showing also Larry Ilag, former deputy chief of party, who is actually on the PAASE board, or at least was on the board. And he also reviewed this MOU, so he used his legal mind to apply to here. But yes, again, so I'll show that he was here visiting one of our grantees, I believe, in UP Visayas. So again, the ties are there. I'll just show quickly this one slide of STRIDE about currently working on sort of 3 avenues: higher education capacity, regulatory environment, and government capacity. More than 10 tasks, 15 subtasks, 15 major partnerships. PAASE is a part of this, and our work can permeate through all these activities. I'm not going to talk about all of these. I'm just going to talk actually about 2 activities that sort of highlights our ongoing or future collaboration with PAASE in the next year or so. So this is where I think it's more of a help wanted ad. 2 items I think we want to cover on our partnership. In fact, when we do the MOU signing later, don't read a couple points on the MOU, but it talks about 2 activities in particular. First is the START program, which Giselle already mentioned. It's the Skills in Technical Advanced Research Training, or START. In a way, I have the two sentences here, the mission. It's really about the courses to aim to strengthen the skills and increase the quality and quantity of research output of Filipino faculty. This is a goal we share in common with PAASE, I know. And besides the courses, these trainings, we actually will launch a START Center that will actually be a locally managed professional development institute that will actually bring out and roll out these programs sustainably in the future, even beyond STRIDE. I can't preempt the announcement of this, but probably the next month or so, you will be hearing the announcement. So watch out for the launch of the START Centers. Hopefully, potentially 2 Philippine universities will be hosting the START Center, and each will have a grant award of about $50,000 US towards the setup of the START Center. I can say that many PAASE members are also part of this discussion on these START Centers. But let me go back to the START courses. What do we want to achieve here? It's really about, first, as my help wanted, course creators, trainers, and mentors wanted from PAASE to help us in creating START courses. What are START courses? Sorry, I jumped. Again, we've run 18 of these in the last few years, many in collaboration with US-based faculty and PAASE members. More than 800 faculty or researchers have attended these courses throughout the years. It's really, we call it before, a postdoc training. Skills, the soft skills of research that beyond the technical, that a young researcher, doesn't have to be young, starting researcher or a faculty will need to become more successful doing their research in the Philippines. So things like how to write better proposals, writing publications, managing research teams, getting funding, growing IP assets. On the bottom row here, I'm talking also about moving university research forward. This is more aimed towards our university staff and officials who will be leading R&D efforts, and also specialized topics. We originally felt this is a way where many of our researchers who may not have gone through a formal postdoc training, and these are things you usually learn through experience, we sort of want a shortcut and sort of give sort of classes that can give this soft skills in research. Again, these are just a preliminary list of our START courses. We have many courses in mind. I'll talk about a couple later. But just to sort of give a throwback, this is our last START course we've given. It's actually a year ago already because of the pandemic. But this actually on how to write scientific papers for publication. And this was given by Dr. Raymond Tan and Dr. Kay Aviso, again, PAASE stalwarts here, who's given this class, actually created a module around this. So also as another throwback, another PAASE member, Dr. Ann Villalobos, gave this talk in 2015 on seminar on good laboratory practices. So again, to show you the sort of the mix of this. So to tie off this START Center course partnership, and this is where I'm going to put the help wanted. We're looking at PAASE members to create and contribute to different course content. Some modules are already being developed, but we could look at individual sub-modules to be crafted and even be delivered. That's why my second point here, co-delivered by PAASE members virtually, but even in person, something you can actually explore if conditions allow. Just to give us what's coming up in the next couple months from the START Center START courses. We're thinking about 3 modules that are currently being developed. One is a sort of a module, we don't have a formal title for this yet, but more about a guidance for new and starting faculty, how to get funding, team management, publications, sort of as an orientation for new researchers. Many big institutions here in the US do this as a routine, but we want to sort of make a module for this so we can apply for many other SUCs and HEIs to benefit from. Another one is an ideation type training, where there's something that arose from our publication work, where we realized some of the ideas or proposals that some of the researchers were thinking of had to be checked for a novelty, and so we had to look at looking at the workshop or training to help ideate proposals for research, and also look at and validate the research ideas. And finally, this leadership courses for HCI leaders to look at for creating a more supportive research and innovation policy and system in their HCIs. More on this in my later half of this presentation. So that ties up the Start Center. And this is where our second item here on partnerships is the support for policies that increase research output and outcomes at HEIs. It's really around 3 points. First is the research incentive and extension policies that we've been working on throughout the years at STRIDE. There's also the innovation diagnostics we've been conducting with PASUC, the Philippine Association of State Universities and Colleges. The picture there shows our partnership on the PC, their platform for innovating SUCs for Industry 4.0. This is more than 2 years ago. You can see Dado there, Yusek Fita. And so it's really a platform where we can look at integrating policy initiatives into everything that PASUC does through its 100 plus member SUCs. And also the R&D procurement, as Giselle mentioned. That's something we're been doing and we're still gonna do. And currently, most of the work's focused with UP. So let me sort of dive into the 3 efforts here. First is the research extension. We've been doing papers on this, for how do we get more relevant research and extension policies in Philippine universities. The first few studies were done with Dr. Rowena Bacongis, I believe is a PAASE member. Dr. Nap Bonillo sort of created a paper that sort of fused all these ideas. And so why do we have these papers? Ultimately, you want to integrate these papers into HEI code. It seems, I always am cynical. It's like, what can a piece of paper do? But it's needed to sort of create a framework for us to bring in these improvements or interventions to the universities. It started to beginning to show, and like in the PASUC has looked at creating a PASUC compendium of work they're doing towards COVID. And I believe Giselle was there during this launch of this compendium. We even got a PAASE member, Dr. Michael Puruganan, to even give a talk about how universities in the US begin to look at extension. That's a research extension. Another one is diagnostics. And so we've looked at, we've already done this with PASUC, where we did a diagnostics on these different pillars on innovation based on different indicators from Times Higher Ed, QS rankings, and other indicators on innovation. You can see that on the plot on the right, things like linkages, basic research, infrastructure, global innovation management, and all that. So we have the results, but the results are given to the SUCs. It's not given as a sort of a public result. But I just want to show you that the diagnosis is there. We know some where the gaps are. And so this PAASE fireside chat we did a few months ago, where now we're going to tie this all together. We have the policy piece, we have the diagnostic work. So now we're going to work individually with a few SUCs and even private HEIs to adopt these policies into their code. And I highlighted that. And also look at their interventions that they can do to sort of overcome some of the gaps they've identified to these diagnostics. So this is where, again, where we can find PAASE can help. We need PAASE members to become technical mentors and advise HEI leaders to improve their STEM research agenda in systems. Again, we have the framework. We have the support group here in STRIDE. We hope to make it easy for PAASE to sort of engage individual SUCs in this framework to sort of bring in lasting change. Again, we're looking at things like organizational assessments, change management, operations, and results-based M&E. So those are the 2 policy pieces. And finally, the one is on procurement that Giselle mentioned. This is something that's been around for years. Our ecosystem assessment still identifies as a problem. There's something we've been working. You can see our picture here in UP with the chancellor, with CP, PAASE member Gani, who's here, and Al, who's leading this from STRIDE, and the Dean of College of Science. So just to quickly show, we are now setting up a centralized procurement database at UP Diliman, College of Science, in partnership with Dr. Ricky and the Dean. And so again, just to show that we have about 2.2 billion pesos of R&D funding going through the College of Science alone, with over 400 active researchers and 80 active projects. So this is ongoing. I just want to sort of stop here and say, in a way, these are stopgap measures or acting on sort of process changes. There are also the long-term policy changes we can work on together. Giselle mentioned this. Thank you to PAASE. We're now doing this S&T procurement survey just to see what the current policies on procurement. Has it gone actually worse because of the pandemic? Hopefully not, but we have indications that's actually happening. So that will help us inform our work going forward. This is my sort of sum up slide, my last pitch, my ask for our partnership. It's really about getting PAASE members to, again, provide content for our START courses, becoming mentors or HEIs as we help them integrate policies into their HEI code. I emphasize that. PAASE members can help us in creating strategic plans for our HEI partners to integrate these changes. So that's something I also want to highlight. Strat planning, that's why we have our Kang speak later on about strategic planning. It's sort of our mechanism to help HEIs. And finally, help us through big and small improvements tackle the very complex R&D procurement challenge. There's just my last two slides to plug the Philippine Innovation Ecosystem Assessment. I want to sort of thank PAASE actually for the paper that you showed, Giselle, that I believe it's also cited information from the Innovation Ecosystem Assessment. We plan to do one more sort of quick update to this next year to see what has changed in the next next year into the findings and the sort of the remaining issues that we've identified in the Innovation Ecosystem Assessment. And by the way, that's so linked there if you want to access this document. I'll now end with just a sneak peek, sort of an intro to our speaker at the end of this session, this short session. Why are we talking about strategic foresight training? Strategic foresighting is a relatively new concept, even though strategic planning is an age-old process. But it's a way we feel we can integrate our policies with HEIs through their strategic training. And this is one method to do it. We're not saying this is the only method we're going to do, but we'd like to share it also because we've done this training with over 20 government officers who are involved in innovation from DOST, DTI, and IPOPHIL. We're going to do another batch of training next month. And we plan to introduce some trainings to actually make this sort of in-house in some government agencies going forward. So sort of a new trend we want to introduce here in the Philippines, and that's why we have Kang speaking today. So with that, that sums up our engagement, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. You made me travel in lightning speed over the 8 years that I've been involved with STRIDE. Come to think of it, I was actually with Phil Silos of RTI on a flight going to a PAASE meeting in Lawag in 2013 when RTI was just proposing to Mir and Gloria Steele the concept for STRIDE. So that's how far back I can remember being involved with this process. Of course, together with PAASE, we've traveled all that 8 years, and it's nice to look back but at the same time looking forward to more activities and more collaborations in the Philippines and abroad. So with that, actually, I just like to highlight to call out to our members in the US, Joel Coelho and Mario Santo Domingo, the current Vice President of PAASE, for joining us today. Thank you very much. And definitely, we have quite a bit of choices on our table right now on which ones do we want to help out and undertake together in this collaboration. So I think Dom has clearly highlighted, but Richard already talked about all of these details in specifics, and so I'm not going to belabor the group. I want to go ahead and let the signing begin and open up actually the floor for everyone to say something about what they heard today so far. So I'll let Richard and Tom and Giselle do the formal signing or the symbolic signing, however you want to call it. And then we can open up before Mr. Kang does his Foresight presentation, which, by the way, is just recently completed in the National Academy of Science, 2 days of Foresight planning on Tuesday and Wednesday. And clearly, this is a timely undertaking also for STRIDE to be able to get the rest of the non-National Academy members to be enlightened on this Foresight strategic thinking. And I'm sure in PAASE, there'll be lots of takers after hearing Mr. Kang's brief presentation later in this program. So with that, I think there's a symbolic signing that's going to happen. Again, Giselle showed the paper already, and I think the MOU displays already the 3 articles in the MOU. So clearly, again, I hate to read a slide or a paper, but definitely from a symbolic standpoint, Giselle, if you want to flash it out just for our members to see what we're committing to, please do so. There
Yeah,
you go.
I think Dom can read out the sort of the few points that are important. But yeah, we already signed this, so it's more of a ceremony. I have a replica MOU here, but
There
yeah. But
Here's
anyway,
the purpose here. Guys, we are committing to a stride for its lifetime and hopefully for more strides. And PAASE is going to be there. We're looking already planning for the 50th anniversary. We just finished the 40th. But I'm already looking at the golden anniversary for PAASE. And hopefully the ecosystem in the Philippines will be much more vibrant and richer, both financially and and otherwise. Of course, areas of collaboration, definitely the Start Center, as Richard indicated, is one of the areas where two presidents of PAASE already delivered the first courseworks last year with Raymond Tan and Kay Aviso being part of that. So clearly, guys, we are very in sync with the activities of STRIDE for this coming year and a half of its life. And I hope we can look forward to more collaborations with USAID and their plans moving forward, both in this ending administration as well as the upcoming one. That's a shout out to Mir, who's the father of STRIDE, together with our mission director, acting USAID administrator, Gloria Steele, way back in 2013.
At this point, I think Dr. LeBlanc deserves a round of applause after announcing another year of STRIDE with funding of $1.5 million. So everyone, let's give that a round of applause. Thank you so much. And here are the articles of the MOU signed by me and Richard. And Dom, are you going to read this? So START has been mentioned as letter A in Article 3. And then we have these other.
that's the strategic planning and the policy work. And the rest is mostly legal speak. So I just want to just highlight those two again. We don't have to go through the whole thing, but
Yes.
I think when I show it, we're going to operationalize. In fact, we're operationalizing it already. And I think you're going to hear from us. And I know I've talked to Isa and she's going to talk soon about the next steps there already. So that's it. I didn't want to go through the whole legal document.
I'd like
Well, before we proceed to Doc Isa speaking, we'll have a ceremonial photo op to celebrate the event.
That'd be great. I'll stop sharing now. Okay.
Yep.
At this point, perhaps we can also acknowledge the presence of our other PAASE members.
I already mentioned, Lisa, I didn't see Lisa was there. Two board members, Isa and Eno. And I'm trying to go over the roll here. There's 22 of us here. CP David is also in the audience now. Anya from, I think, is also there.
Yeah.
We have the President, Mario Santo Domingo of the University of Maryland.
I mentioned Mario already and Joel a while ago. So I think we pretty much mentioned everyone. Thank you guys for.
We have Dr. Ricky Logari here, our STRIDE consultant, who's going to help us on the strategic planning work with HCIs.
Oh, so, perfect. That's why I didn't recognize Ricky.
Right.
Welcome.
Anya's here from DOST because, again, DOST is interested in the Foresighting program.
Okay, perfect.
That's something we're going to bring in as an assistance to other partners.
Yeah, Anya is the point person of Chief of Staff of GEV, USAC GEV's office. So clearly we'd want representation from that office here. Welcome, Anya. Thanks for showing up. Okay, so I'd like to ask everyone to turn on their cameras, even though you haven't taken a bath yet. CP and whoever else is there. There you go. Everyone's here. Mir, please. There you go. Ani, I think, and Anya. There, Anya showed up already. Okay, perfect. So Dom, are you taking the picture?
Yes. So perhaps I can just count to 3. Then let's all flash our biggest smiles. Right, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, let's get one more. 1, 2, 3.
All
Great.
righty.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you
it.
very much.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being able to witness this momentous 8 years in the making relationship. So I think the next part of the program is clearly to hear from our youngest board member in PAASE and the representation of the upcoming preeminent scientists in the Philippines. So clearly, we'd like to pass on the baton. We're going through our second round already. It's been 8 years. So, Aisa, we'd like to hear you about your plans moving forward and clearly what the next generation of scientists, the under 50 something scientists are planning to come up with in our relationship with STRIDE and USA. Aisa, please.
Yes, can everybody hear me? Yeah, good morning to everyone. Thank you to especially everyone from past and STRIDE, past and the present, in particular to those who worked on formalizing this collaboration by this MOU. So I'll be very quick because I'm excited about the strategic foresight talk later on. From Richard's presentation, we can see that some of our members, in particular the new investigators and faculty, who have benefited from STRIDE projects and grants. And we can also see that there are other PAASE members who supported these training projects, acting as resource speakers or conveners of workshops and symposia. So with over 250 members scattered across the globe, spanning many S&T fields with different levels of expertise and experience, we can definitely draw upon the full membership of PAASE for increased participation and in particular mentorship. Now, to further strengthen our collaboration, PAASE from our end will be more active in matching members to the STRIDE projects that Richard mentioned earlier. So definitely we'll be more active in disseminating the information to the full membership, but we will also have a more targeted quote unquote recruitment or invitation to select members who can be resource persons for the START projects or policy work. For example, those who have been deans before or academic administration leaders. And so with this MOU, we are very excited to continue our work, our combined efforts in developing a better research and innovation infrastructure and culture for the Philippines. So thank you again and magandang umaga po ulit sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat, Aisa. I think the future of PAASE is in good hands. So I think we are all excited to hear Mr. Kang Chung's presentation. So I think I will not delay that any further. Again, I hear congratulations from our group in the US. Joel just sent out his greetings. Unless there are some burning questions or statements that we wanted to make from the membership, I would come and welcome already our brief presentation from Mr. Chung about Foresight, strategic Foresight. Yes, Giselle.
There seems to be a burning comment or question from Tito Aliga.
Okay, Tito, I'll give you the floor briefly, please.
Thank you very much, Giselle. Yeah, I am the guy with the 0 kilobyte memory, so I easily forget. But I have a couple of points here, Giselle, and I don't know if this is relevant to what we are talking about. Number one, we congratulate Giselle for being the active president of PAASE. I think the other previous presidents I got to know, like Joel, were also active. But the difference now is that Giselle is here. Giselle is here. So if because of her, then a lot of mobilizing efforts make a lot of difference. So we need somebody who is on the ground here in the Philippines. Okay. The second one is that we talk about STEM. We always talk about that, and in the previous email, I commented that STEM development should be built upon a good foundation in basic education. And again, I'm sure Richard knows about this. Our basic ed system needs a lot of fixing. So I think that in terms of STEM, going forward, we must build a better foundation. So
Yes.
one of the things that came up, for instance, Richard, I'm sure you know it, in the team's study of fourth graders, the Philippines was close to the last. And the reason is that in the first 3 grades, they are using the mother tongue language. So fourth grade is the time that they start learning English. Fourth grade is this time they start learning English. I think in the provinces.
The paper of
there we have already a
PAASE,
drawback.
released that talks about that, no. So yes,
It's there. Yeah.
we understand there's that feeder
Correct.
situation gap, and so though we're a higher ed project, I think
Yeah.
it's important that it impacts us. That's something I think we'll dialogue with PAASE, because I know you have efforts there. I attend some of your meetings,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
let me know. I think how we can help. We'll find ways.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you, Tito.
We have shared this idea with people from PBED, PBSP, and I think the idea is catching fire. The third item I wanted to talk about.
UNILAB Foundation is active also in that regard for STEM education. So clearly we are addressing that issue, and we've been addressing it for the last 8 years. And I think Tom has highlighted close to 2 billion pesos. Guys, that's not something to sneeze at in terms of effort in improving the science and technology STEM ecosystem in the Philippines. So you may not know it, but start reading about it and you will find out how deep the activities are, Tito. So clearly that's a challenge for you guys at EarthFi and UP to know exactly what is done. So with that, I think
if I may get 1 more minute.
Quickly na lang, Tito, because we're running out of time.
Yeah, we're running out of time. So thank you very much.
I think the STRIDE is research focused, and our problem now is converting science to commercial. Again, probably that's something that we are working on, Al. Thank you.
Yes, that's my mission in life for the last 10 years, Tito. So we will continue that. Now I think I'd like to welcome Mr. Chung to go ahead with our presentation. Mr. Chung is from University of Urbana-Champaign, Illinois, where he did his, I think, bachelor's and master's. But I'm really excited about his first foray to the Philippine ecosystem and providing us the strategic foresight capability. So with that, I think, please, Kang, go ahead.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you all see my screen here?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you all. I'll try to be brief. Thank you, Dr. Abendan and the USAID team and Dr. Concepcion, and also for the PAASE, and congratulations to you all, and appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you all. So my name is Kang. I'm an innovation advisor at RTI. I do a lot of our digital and strategy work with our Fortune 500 clients. One of the things that we do there is something called strategic foresighting, and I'm going to talk a little bit, very briefly, about sort of what it is and how it might be helpful for long-range planners. I think you guys are all familiar with RTI, so I'll breeze through this. Fundamentally, the problem that strategic foresight tries to address is this: that the future is fundamentally unknowable, and that even though the future is unknowable, our challenge is to make decisions today under this uncertainty about what the future will bring. Right? A perfect example is the coronavirus. Right? I think there was some murmurs and talks about it, but who has planned for this? Who has prepared for this? And so as we think further out, it becomes harder to predict what might happen. And so when we're trying to make longer term decisions, such as many universities do and government organizations do, this becomes a challenge. And so what we try to do also is to prepare organizations and institutions for large change that requires a lot of time and preparation in terms of planning and infrastructure and training and so forth. And so these things need to be accommodated for before they happen. And so this is where strategic foresight comes in. While foresight doesn't try to predict the future. What it does is it's a method for exploring what alternative future scenarios might exist and using those scenarios to inform strategic planning, essentially meaning, where do we put our investment today so that we will be prepared in the future? And it's frequently used as a tool for long-term planning efforts, especially within governments. We talk about strategic foresight in three primary ways. One, it's a mindset. It's about thinking about the future, not as a single individual linear path, but as a potential for an infinite set of possibilities. And it's also a process. We think about the process of, how do we frame and scope the subject of our foresighting? How do we explore the trends and signals that we see today and how they might impact the future? How do we interpret those and immerse ourselves in what this vision of the future looks like in the alternate scenarios? And then we think back on what the implications are for our respective organizations and how we could allocate resources accordingly. And then lastly, it's also a set of tools, tactical things that we could use to help organize our thinking about the future. And this includes things like SWOT analysis, implication matrix, which I'll show later, implication wheels, and so forth. And so I'll talk a little bit more about this middle part, right? Some of this process that I briefed over, because I think this is perhaps the most interesting part for us. The first part of strategic foresighting is about understanding the different forces and the way they impact the way the future unfolds. This graphic shows three types of trends that we care about. One you can see is the longer, lower frequency curves. These are things symbolic of demographic shifts, climate change, progress in basic sciences. These are slow acting, powerful forces. And then on the bottom, you have, very high frequency changes. These things change a lot: fashion trends, viral content, product fads. And then there's something in between where you're looking at, every 1 to 2 years, these are forces or trends that are changing. And so when we think about strategic foresight, we think about this top layer, right? What are the large mega trends that will impact the future? And these forces can be identified and analyzed. And what we do is we group them into, alternate and provocative and plausible futures, right? We want to make sure A is different from B, is different from C, so that we can entertain different possibilities of what can be in the future. They're meaningfully different, and they're also what we call logically consistent. So if that means future A is all about sustainability, that means that it influences the way people buy, the way people get around and make investment decisions, etc. And then we think about these futures as a way to explore what the possibilities might be. And then what we do from these futures is we use something like this. This is an example actually from a client that we've used, but this is called an implication matrix. And it helps us draw the connection between what these potential future scenarios hold and what are the implications for the organization. So across here, you'll see 3 different scenarios. Convenient truths, right? This is all about, and this is for a large food company that we did, right? So this is all about how do we get convenient foods. Green machine is all about, consumers just care about sustainability, organic. Optimize me is about, how do we get the most nutrition out of our foods, etc. And so under these different scenarios, we could think through, okay, what does that mean? How do we change our products? How do we source our ingredients? What manufacturing processes are we using, or best practices are we using in each of these different scenarios? And it's not necessarily so that we're predicting, we're all, basing our bets that scenario A is going to happen, but we can plan and prepare so that if scenario A does happen, we will have a plan for how we might have to change our manufacturing processes. So this is one of the true advantages of strategic foresight. We always include this quote because we feel like this is a huge but often overlooked advantage of foresight. And the real purpose of it is not to predict how a driver of change will evolve, but to change the mental models, right? To change the mindsets of people, to not be stuck in the past, right? The future will be as the past was, but it's to change their thinking about what the future is and how many different futures there might be. More tactically speaking, strategic foresight is an element, it's a piece, it's an input into what we're calling a resilient innovation strategy, right? So it's one element. Other elements include, having a purpose, vision, mission, having a corporate strategy. There's insights from design thinking. These all lead towards a roadmap. They could lead to innovation goals, strategic initiatives. This is one of the inputs that can inform all of these deliverables. So in summary, foresighting, we feel, is instrumental to help prepare leaders for the future. It cultivates the future thinking mindset, help explore and understand what are the relevant changes. I think we often live in our own bubbles and we don't understand what's going on in the outside world that can affect our worlds. And so this is a great exercise to do that. Understand the implications of alternative futures, right? There's some futures we don't like and we tend not to think about, but this forces an exercise to help us think about what those alternative futures can bring and how that might impact our universities and institutions. Also identify early signals that can indicate future change. So we might not know which future is coming, but if we designate certain signals, if we see an uptick in purchases of sustainable goods, then we'll know, perhaps our scenario A is coming true, right? So we help identify early signals. And then lastly, we could develop actionable insights, right? We could hedge our bets and try to make investment decisions in infrastructure and training and so forth so that we are prepared for inevitabilities in our future. So that's a super quick overview of strategic foresight, what it is, how we do it, and some of the value that we bring. I'd like to say thank you and congratulations to Stride and PAASE once again, but also happy to take any questions in the remaining time.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Sorry, I mispronounced. It reminded me of a instructor from George Washington University, Jim Chung, but it's Mr. Kang Chang. It's a very enlightening presentation, Kang, and definitely it's timely because I mentioned the last 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, we just did Foresight 2050 for the National Academy of Science and Technology here. And I think your presentation clearly even drills it down lower, further in terms of getting to the details of the specific universities and industries that might be able to do strategic foresight methodologies to predict, at least help them guide their decisions moving forward. And I think I'm looking forward to the event that Stride's going to sponsor, and hope our fellow PAASE members will be able to join that session with Mr. Kang Chang, I think in the next couple of months. So I think that's, again, a clear example on how we can all work together, bringing in expertise from around the world because of RTI International's foothold in different areas of the world, and definitely with the support of US aid, PAASE can truly benefit and be a partner in the ecosystem science and technology development of the Philippines. So with that, I could thank everyone. Again, is there any questions for Mr. Kang at this point?
Yeah, Mir and Tom had to leave, but we can keep going. But they wanna relay that they had to leave for another minute, but we can keep going through that.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
So, Kang, thank you. I'd like to know how we get the data. So we need the reliable data for foresighting. So get complete and accurate data. So what would you advise us to do?
Sorry, I could only hear a little bit about that, but was the question about how to get accurate data to inform strategic foresighting?
That's right, Kang.
Yeah.
Philippines setting,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's often a challenge. This is in the beginning part of the process. You might have seen there was essentially an exploration phase, and that's where organizations like RTI come in, and we do research around identifying what those trends are. And the exercise really is not about accuracy per se. We don't necessarily try to predict what the future is, but generate a set of plausible futures and think about how the organization might have to change in those various futures. So, getting precise data so that we have accurate predictions is a very scientific way of approaching foresighting. But the discipline is such that we're less thinking about accuracy and more thinking about what are the implications should this happen. But the question is, what is this all based on? And this is based on secondary research. There's tons of reports out there about what are the major trends that are impacting the world, and even specific probably to the Philippines. So there is a good body of research, you could call it, that sort of describes what these trends are that might be affecting us today and in the future.
I think, yeah, that's a succinct answer to the question. And it's the data science that looks at the patterns or the trends. But then I always think about the perspective of the patterns of the trends. And I'm concerned that in the Philippines, the data is from the sales and marketing perspective. Okay? And I always wanted to address the need to get the data that is a little bit more objective, or data on the ground coming from communities, as well as data relating to the environment, the natural side from the human society. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Yeah, having gone through this process before, you have to really rely on it's really the mindset change that Kang talked about. After the exercise, going through this, actually you appreciate that at the end, that how you have changed how you look at things and sort of getting out of that bubble. But yeah, there are reports out there from UN reports on climate change and demographics and even like diet patterns that are interesting if you start reading it. It just forces you to look at sort of orthogonal issues that you don't think actually affect you.
Any additional questions, guys?
I do, Al. I've got a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Joel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chang. That was very illuminating and quite appropriate. So speaking of the subject of technology foresighting, this is really directed more to Richard. And Richard, you don't really have to reply, but the goals that you've set really for STRIDE in the next few years are really worthy and really great. And of course, it's not possible for USAID STRIDE to take on everything. However, I thought I would just throw this out. Intellectual property cultivation is really important as well. And IPOFIL is doing its best really to make this happen and to realize this. And I was just thinking, because we talked about this in one of the sessions at the APAMS meeting last summer, is the idea of a technology transfer company or organization. Like the one in Israel for the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, they have the company Yisum, which really cultivates and manages and licenses the patents that are produced by the university globally. Now, I'm not suggesting that each university in the Philippines should have one, but perhaps we could think of one for the entire country. where every state university, every university in the Philippines could avail of the services of this organization, which will help defray the cost of intellectual property filing with IPOPHIL and manage this intellectual property portfolio and even promote it and license it worldwide, globally. I think that would be one way of really catalyzing, energizing the IP growth in the country. And this could be done in partnership with IPOPHIL as well as the Department of Science and Technology. Just a thought, perhaps
No, thank
USAID
you.
realize this.
Yeah. First, our goals, I think, is, as I keep saying, is very aligned to. We have the same goals at the end of the day. So, I think this is not unique to Stride. No? So yeah, that's the first one I want to say. Second, we're actually IPOPHIL is actually one of the first departments who are part of the first Foresight class. So they are also looking at sort of thinking outside the box for this. But your question is more specific to the tech transfer world. Only I can say is that we've heard of that model. In fact, Al's here, who's our consultant also for that, which is also basically PAASE viewpoint also. That's something being looked at. I just don't know if it's progressed to a point where there's a solid concept for that. I know it's been discussed with DOST at one point early on, but I don't know. I'll quickly comment on that question from Joel about the
All right.
the Israeli model that you've seen. Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm actually running behind schedule. I have another meeting scheduled at 10. Just excuse myself from mentoring another startup health company. So I don't know if anybody else in the audience needs to say or ask a question to Mr. Tukan. But definitely I'm going to have to say goodbye already.
Okay. That's okay, Al. I can take over if needed.
Yeah, I think Richard can take over. You're in good hands here. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And again,
Thank you,
good luck to us.
Richard.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. May I say that the UST is already on this path of trying to support all our inventors in the universities. So, Joel, we get support from UST TAPI to move forward our intellectual property filings. So what you're suggesting is a one-stop shop, which is being done in Malaysia, not only in Israel, is very good idea. So maybe we can suggest this to the DOST, the IPOPHIL, and the Department of Trade and Industry as well.
Yeah, I think you can go through Al because Al consults them anyways, particularly TAPI, if I recall. So, but yeah, I know Al discussed that model already that you mentioned, Joel, because we both went to Israel at one point to actually see some of those best practices. So let's see. If there are no more questions or comments for Kang.
May I make a plug then, Richard?
Sure.
It's so nice that our first fireside chat, number 1, was with you. It's very, very significant to me. And our last fireside chat, number 12, was with the DOST, with whom we signed an MOU yesterday. In December 2020, we had fireside chat 12. Let me share with our participants today that fireside chat 13 is on February 18, Thursday, next week. And this is with Jose Maria Chavez, the Chief Financial and Licensing Officer of Unilab, the biggest pharmaceutical company in our country. So it's a one chat, okay, with Joey Ochave. And I think that this is our way of linking up with industry. So we now have many industry partners who have joined our chats with whom we are exploring more collaboration. And with Unilab, we have a chance to move forward STEM education because they're one of the champions of STEM education in our country, from the primary to the secondary, tertiary levels, which is the major concern of Tito Aliga of UPSC. Okay. At this point, I'd like to introduce our Vice President and President-elect, Mario Santo Domingo of the University of Maryland. And thank you, Mario, for joining us. And I think he would also like to plug our Friday webinars. And the next one will be hosted by him on February 19th, Friday. Mario?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Giselle, and thank you so much to USA Stride for your continued support of the Philippine scientific innovation, and congratulations with the newly signed partnership with PAASE, which I think is long overdue, because the partnership has been going on for a while now. As Giselle said, I'd like to plug our next webinar on February 19th. That's a Friday. The guest speaker is Dr. Marianne Go from uh, uh, Imperial College London. She'll be speaking about mice behavior. You know, it's a neuroscientific, psychiatric or psychological research that he will be talking about. But I actually have a question for Mr. Kang Chang, related to strategic forecasting. I know that you may be using a different methods for forecasting, and that you mentioned that you are not so much into predicting, right? The future, but I suppose you use a lot of modeling in your research. How open is strategic forecasting in the use of qualitative data? Or do you use both quantitative and qualitative?
We actually don't use any
I think
quantitative.
we lost Mario. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
Richard?
it went well. We can hear Mario, and so Kang's now gonna be replying. But yes, it was fine.
I can hear everyone. Yeah. Yeah, we actually don't use quantitative modeling, right? Again, we're not trying to, calculate what will happen in the future. It's really a merging of what we see going on in the world. So it very much is qualitative. We're looking at reports that are saying, what are the trends that we're seeing that are affecting the world? And then we drill down to, okay, what is our area of focus, right? Let's say higher education. So within the sphere of higher education, what are the trends there? And then if there's a specific question that we want to answer, right? For example, what is the future, say, I'll just make this up, relationship dynamic change between professors and students, right? As we move towards remote learning, as an example, right? If that's the question we want to answer, provide foresight on, it's very much qualitatively looking at the trends that are in the world at large, within the higher education space. And then we take a lot of experts within the higher education field, and we ask them to think about, okay, what are the implications given these trends that we're seeing globally and within higher education itself. So yeah, apologies if I miscommunicated. There's no modeling per se of any numbers and forecasting of anything quantitative necessarily in at least our process.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Mario. Giselle, do you have other comments before we close out the session?
I think it's been a very, very enlightening meeting. Richard, thank you so much to Kang for sharing your insights with us. And it's nice to have gotten the question from Mario, who is a professor of psychology and a student of Philippine history and social cultural. He's been a student of social cultural studies in the Philippines. And so I think it's so important to us to try to understand the Filipino psyche. And Mario's actually made major efforts to try to help a community in Morong, Rizal, through the University of Rizal system, and also by coming up or putting up a museum in Morong, in Rizal province. So thank you so much for that, Mario. And at this point, I think, Richard, I think what we need to do is get our hands wet and try to get to implement our MOU. And our lead person for this is none other than Dr. Isa Yu. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Giselle. So yeah, just to close it off, from the STRIDE program, we're really happy this partnership's formally there, but it's been there for quite a while. Yes, we are operationalizing already. We're gonna hear the activities that's gonna be rolled out. The help wanted ads gonna start going out. So watch out for that. Again, it's something we all aspire for, is where research and innovation drive economic growth. That's a common vision for everybody here. So happy to be part of this effort, and thank you again, PAASE. So with that, thank you very much for attending this MOU signing. Thanks, Kang, for giving the talk, and have a good day.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank
Giselle.
you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to my comments.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hello, Dom. How are you?
Dom just left, sir.
Sige, Richard.
But yeah,
Thank you.
I think you know naman, we're doing the efforts on the START program, so I think you'll hear.
The other thing I wanted to add, Richard, if you have a couple of minutes, in one of your pictures, nandun si Brian Pajarito.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he has left
I know.
He has left the university for, as he said, they said greener pastures.
Mm.
Because that's one of the problems we have now. Our STEM graduates, yung mga leading edge sciences, they don't have work in the Philippines.
Correct.
Kaya they either they get to do something else, or they leave.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems. Yung career in the Philippines.
Correct. That's why we're trying to see how we make a fostering environment here, where they get better opportunities. Yeah, that's the long-term goal. It starts with these things muna, yung mga improving procurement, para lang they're happy when they're doing research. But syempre, there's the remuneration issue, and little by little.
Okay.
Good seeing
One
you.
piece at a time.
Yes.
Thank you, Richard.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.